The story begins in the desert, where a lone child, playing with a human finger, stumbles along in search of his mother. A few miles away, a car pulls up on a road that suddenly ends in the middle of the desert. The man driving gets out and continues on foot. Wyndham is a photographer who has come here to capture a solar eclipse. After taking some pictures and noticing that the day is coming to an end, he tries to get back to his car, but is unexpectedly confronted by a boy who appears lost and frightened. Wyndham is willing to help, but the boy doesn't seem to need it. He points in the direction where his parents were lost and walks away. In an attempt to help the boy find his way home, Wyndham follows him, but the boy rudely refuses his support and leaves. The man is left alone in the dark, with no way back to civilization. Wyndham lies down to sleep, but struggles to do so, reliving the day's events in his mind. Suddenly, he hears strange noises. He follows the sound and soon finds stakes with ropes between them, from which bottles dangle, making a melodious ringing in the desert. Ahead lies a large valley, and at the bottom of it is a wooden house, around which a woman walks, singing a song. Wyndham calls for help, but she enters the house as if she does not hear his pleas. He finds an iron ladder to climb down and begins to descend, but the ladder only goes halfway down the valley, and from there it is just a simple rope ladder. Wyndham overcomes them both and approaches the house. He knocks on the door insistently, but gets no answer. So Wyndham opens the door anyway and enters. The woman standing by the stove greets him calmly, as if she has been waiting for him to arrive. She offers him dinner, and despite his refusal, she serves him some soup and sets it on the table. Wyndham is grateful for her hospitality, but continues to ask questions about how to leave this strange place. He tells her about the boy he met and asks for water. The woman, whose name is Alina, suggests that he rest until morning, and Wyndham gratefully accepts her care. He lies down on the bed she points to, watching Alina tidy herself up and noticing that she is young and beautiful. The next morning, he packs his things and heads outside, hoping to find his way home. But strangely enough, he can't find the rope ladder he climbed down the day before. Without it, access to the iron section is impossible. Wyndham returns in the house and takes out his camera, taking pictures of the graffiti on the canyon walls. Everything is very gloomy and reminds him of death in all its forms. He then notices Alina, who is busy repairing the roof, and asks her about the missing ladder, but she either doesn't understand what he is talking about or pretends not to understand. Although her words imply that there are other residents here, she doesn't tell him anything directly. Disappointed, Wyndham wanders around the canyon, periodically calling for help, but to no avail. Later, Alina asks him to undress so she can wash his clothes, saying that it wouldn't be nice to go home so dirty. The man has no choice but to comply. That night, he struggles to sleep again, goes outside, and tries again to find a way out, but nothing is found. In the morning, he searches the house, finds a hammer, and tries to climb the canyon wall. Suddenly, he notices movement above, and then a chicken carcass falls, causing him to lose his balance and fall. Wyndham regains consciousness in the darkness. He hits his own hammer on his leg and screams in pain. Alina rushes to his aid, but she doesn't answer his questions about the children he saw on the cliff. For days, he goes in and out of fever, unable to tell day from night, unsure if he really sees children around him. But the day of recovery comes. Wyndham limps and makes his way outside. He asks Alina to tell the children above to pull him out, but she pretends not to understand. She offers to stay, promising to watch over him and ensure his safety. But Wyndham doesn't need that. He wants to go home to his work. He rudely pushes Alina away, refusing any help. The man examines his leg and realizes that it will be a long time before he can fully use it. Suddenly, he hears voices from above and looks up to see the boy holding a little girl's hand. The two cheerfully ask how they can help, and upon learning that Wyndham wants to climb, the boy promises to bring ropes and pull him out with his winch. But before he leaves, he asks a rather odd question about Wyndham's favorite color. Wyndham replies that it is red and begs them to hurry. The boy and girl leave, and Wyndham checks his wallet in his pocket, not intending to return for his other belongings. Suddenly, a rope falls from above, and the same boy advises him to tie himself up tightly, which Wyndham does. They begin to pull it up, and the man actually expects to be rescued, but about halfway through, the rope stops. Wyndham, dangling over the ravine, screams, and then tries to climb the rope himself, but lacks the strength and ends up hanging helplessly in the harsh sun. He regains consciousness from the dampness, but when he looks up, he sees the boys spraying him with their hose, mocking the helpless man. Several other children appear on the cliff, ranging in age from very young to older teenagers. They are all wearing clothes that have clearly been taken from other people and are acting inappropriately. They taunt Wyndham and begin swinging the rope, causing him to crash into the canyon walls, and he instinctively calls out for help to Alina. He sees the woman screaming angrily at the foolish children and loses consciousness after another blow to the wall. That night, he wakes up in bed and immediately tries to get up. Alina doesn't understand where he's going, but Wyndham is willing to do anything to escape. The woman explains that the children are homeless and are huddled in the desert together, trying to survive as best they can. Neither of them notices that while they're talking, the children are standing on a cliff, watching the windows of a house burn. The next day, Wyndham watches Alina release a bird and envies its ability to fly. The woman brings him an extra set of clothes from somewhere, and although he didn't ask for them, he is touched by her care. Time passes. One day, Wyndham plants a small garden at the bottom of the canyon. Every now and then, the children bring them various things, food and drinks, which surprises Wyndham since there are no shops around. He does not understand their behavior. First, they feed him, then they make fun of him, but Alina accepts everything as normal. The man becomes more involved in the house and is surprised by Alina's calm behavior. One night, he tries to ask her questions, but is interrupted by screams from the yard. Alina advises Wyndham not to go out when the children are acting up, but he rushes outside in the night and sees the boys, dressed in strange clothes, gathered around the house. They begin to taunt him, push him, and beat him, but then suddenly disappear into the dark. Wyndham demands answers from Alina. Who are these children? Why do they live here? And why is she staying in this terrible place? But the woman remains calm, not admitting that she is a prisoner. That evening, she comes to Wyndham. The man, hungry for female attention, welcomes her eagerly. Time passes, and the first buds appear in Wyndham's garden. One day, the boy in the hat calls him from the top. He is friendly and promises to bring him some soda. Wyndham returns to his plants and unexpectedly finds a wedding ring and car keys buried in the sand. That evening, Alina shows him a photograph of a woman. She calls her the first mother, and she confesses that she is expecting his child. Stunned, Wyndham cannot believe his ears. He never wanted to have children here, especially with a woman he barely knows. He yells at Alina, but has no choice but to accept it. The next morning, he finds his garden destroyed by local birds, but Alina willingly helps him replant, earning his gratitude. Gradually, life in the house begins to take on some semblance of order. Alina runs the household and Wyndham exercises, working on his leg. One day, the boy in the cap visits again. He is very curious and asks Wyndham many questions. Wyndham asks him to help Alina because she is going to have a child and they will need a doctor. The man asks the boy to bring some rope and something heavy to use as a counterweight. He plans to go out and take them to town, where he can take care of the woman and the boy. The boy promises to do everything while everyone is asleep or absent, but then one of the older boys appears and takes him away. Later, Wyndham tells Alina that the boy wants to study, that he is smart and different from the others, and that he wants to live differently. The man wants to help him and her, but Alina reacts strangely. She tries to figure out what exactly Wyndham is missing here. When he mentions freedom, Alina is puzzled. After all, no one stops him from doing anything here. Isn't that freedom? Then the man tells her about the outside world, mentioning the ocean and cheeseburgers. Alina doesn't know what this is, so Wyndham explains what the dish consists of. The woman admits that her mother used to say that mirages live outside, but here in the desert, everything is real. Wyndham takes out his camera and shows her the pictures he took on the day he ended up here. But what impresses the woman is not the solar eclipse, but a random shot in the car with music playing in the background. At night, he has nightmares about the terrifying faces of children mocking someone. In the morning, he hears Alina's terrible screams from the yard, rushes outside, and sees the boy in the cap crucified above the ravine on wires. The savages are standing on the cliff and laughing. The woman suddenly declares that the brothers would never do such a thing. She accuses Wyndham of killing her son and hits him over the head with a wooden board. When Wyndham regains consciousness, he finds himself in a cage. Despite his pleas and entreaties, Alina has no intention of letting him go. She feeds him like an animal, and her children come to watch his suffering. One day, he sees a girl standing on the cliff. She is clearly not from here. Wyndham draws her attention, though he is afraid to scream for fear of waking Alina. Whispering, he begs the girl for help. She understands him, promises to do whatever is necessary, and leaves, assuring him that she will be back soon. Wyndham waits in hiding, watching the heavily pregnant Alina do her housework. Suddenly, he hears screams and sees the savages grab the girl. They drag her to the cliff and kill her before his eyes. Time passes. Wyndham remains in the cage. He involuntarily witnesses an unnatural ritual performed by Alina, her children, and her siblings. One day, he suddenly tells Alina that he wants to stay here forever, to raise his child and love Alina, who will become his queen. The child will know everything he knows and is ready to sacrifice himself completely. This is his choice. But at the word choice, the woman laughs. He never had a choice. He is just a seed that the wind carried here. And this child is hers alone. The man will remain in the cage until the child is born. After that, nothing is lost in the desert. Finally, the day of birth comes. Alina screams in the house as Wyndham paces up and down the cage. The woman reaches him, begging for help, as she has never experienced such a difficult birth before. She releases the man from the cage, and he does his best to ease her pain. The children stand on the cliff, watching what is happening. Suddenly, Wyndham sees a ladder coming down from above, but Alina screams and he stays by her side. The child is born at the moment of a solar eclipse. Wyndham takes the child in his arms and kisses her, delighted to be a father. Alina begs him to give her the child, and when she receives the child, she promises to feed and protect her until she becomes the new mother. Then she will have her purpose fulfilled, just as Wyndham has now fulfilled his. At that moment, the boy sneaks up and slits the man's throat, rising above the collapsed body, assuring him that he is doing it for the mother. Later, Alina gathers Wyndham's things and packs them in a box, then goes to the child, promising her that everything will be all right. Meanwhile, Wyndham's body decomposes in the yard, sprouting grass and turning to dust. This is where this unusual film ends.